Welcome to the Tech Report podcast, where we help businesses survive, thrive, and create value.
Well, welcome everybody to the Tech Report, the podcast that is all about helping businesses survive, thrive, and create value, especially in our trying environment today. Well, I'm your host, Brad Stoller. You know, I don't know about you, but it's actually starting to feel, somewhat, I'm going to use this loosely here, but normal. People are about, schools are back in session, the NFL is playing, and traffic, my favorite thing, traffic is starting to get more congested. Boy, did I miss that. But yet, each one of those things that I mentioned, they've had to make some tremendous changes in order to continue. So schools are open, yes, that's true, but there's a lot of remote learning going on. It's a big change, and there's some issues going on there. The NFL, yeah, they're playing, but there's nobody in the stands. It's really kind of creepy, I guess, especially for the players. Restaurants are open, but in our area, they're only open at about 50% capacity. And that's not sure if that's enough for them to even break even, but at least, they're open. So yeah, we're all out shopping, but everybody has to wear a mask. So it's just a crazy world we now live in, and nobody really knows, when we're going to be able to put our mask away for good, or maybe we never will, who knows? A lot of times when there's changes like this, big changes, a lot of people have fear that starts to develop. Uncertainty is just a breeding ground for fear, but it also spawns the biggest leaps in some businesses. And it's usually those who embrace new changes in technology. So our guest today specializes in helping businesses use technology in order to not only stay competitive, but also to take that next step into the land of incredible opportunity, which is what we're going to talk about today. So our guest today is Kyle Knapp of Viterium. So he's a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, and he's got 16 years of business IT management experience, as well as the CAHIMS designation, which stands for Certified Healthcare Information and Management Systems. He's got the healthcare thing down pretty well. He also has I know this is really difficult to get, but he has a certification of CASP Plus, which stands for, it's CompTIA's most advanced cybersecurity certification that they offer. So Kyle knows his stuff. Another one of the areas I noticed is that he's a member of the Vistage Group, which is a CEO peer group focusing on issues in business. So you put all this together, and I think you've got somebody who understands business and really how to network and protect it. So Kyle, welcome to the Tech Report.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for having me.
Well, it took me a while to get through that introduction, but gosh darn it, you you got a lot of things going on, and there's just so much going on in the world, and I'm kind of excited to have you aboard here today. Maybe you can help clarify, some things out there that people are, you have some questions about. So, but before we get into that, if you could just take a couple seconds, tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up helping businesses with their technology.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I graduated from the Naval Academy. I had a degree in computer science. I spent the next 6 years as a surface warfare officer, but didn't really get a chance to work with technology. So I left the service. I returned to my hometown of Saxonburg, which is located north of Pittsburgh, where I worked for a manufacturing company as the IT manager. But for as long as I can remember, I've always had the dream of business ownership, of having my own company. So after 16 years, I left there and started Viterium.
Awesome. So just like everybody else, it sounds like you got the bug to own the business.
Absolutely.
And now your bug is allowing you to think like everybody else that you're serving now, because they got the bug too at some point. Gotcha. Well, I mentioned that before that, we're starting to get our economy back and running again, but everything just feels different. So what do you feel are some of the issues that business owners and managers really should be paying attention to in our new world that we're living in here today?
Yeah, Brad. So the biggest issues I see are around cybersecurity due to both the increased attack surface caused by more people than ever working remotely. And then all these new government programs, there's a lot of confusion about them. They're all new. People don't really know a lot about how they work. So the scammers are taking advantage of that by pretending to help people. They'll send phishing emails, make phone calls, pretending to be from a government agency, and hey, I'm here to help. I'm going to want to give you some money. But instead, all they do is they collect the information and then they use that maliciously, whether that's for identity theft, or stealing information, for stealing money from bank accounts, credit card information. But it's those are the areas where I see the most concern, just due to the changes and all the things that you had already talked about with the COVID-19 situation.
Well, I've heard this, and for those of you who've seen a few of my episodes, you know that I've interviewed quite a few cybersecurity specialists, but I still have a lot of people that I know they think it. I hear it all the time when I'm out and about. But all these business owners are saying, yeah, okay, sure, that's going on. I read about it, but so what? That doesn't affect me. I don't have anything that anybody's going to want. And all my employees are good little angels. They would never, ever, ever let somebody in my network, right? So what do you have to say about that?
Well, Brad, I agree that that is the mentality. That's what a lot of people are thinking. But every business has valuable information, whether it's valuable to them or valuable to someone else. Any business can't run without their information. I mean, it's like if you were to lose access today to all of your records, your customer contact information, all your accounting information, would your business be able to survive? And that's one of the things that the attackers, particularly with ransomware, are doing. They're not stealing your information. They are just denying you the access to it. And that can happen to anyone.
So it's not really that they want the information, so to speak. They just know that you can't operate without the information. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Yes.
And that sets up, the old thing that's been going on for years and years, centuries and all that. It's called take something hostage, right? And they want a fee for it. That's basically what ransomware, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's very similar to blackmail, although they're not threatening to release your information. They're just threatening not to let you have it.
I got it. So, and of course, when that happens to businesses, then if we really think about it, I guess I'm thinking about it right now here, but if somebody were to hack, let's say, on my customer list, for example, and that all my information, and they have all my operating systems where I really can't do anything. I can't remember everything. So I need this system. So I get that email that says, if you don't pay us, I hear it's all in Bitcoin anymore. If you don't pay us 10,000 in Bitcoin or 100,000 if I'm a larger business, or $1 million, whatever it may be, then you're out of business basically, because they're not going to let you. They're going to turn it back on, are they?
No, not unless you pay them. And even if you do pay them, there's still a remote possibility that you're still not going to get access to your data. So
and they can do it again.
And they can, they can keep on doing it to you.
Exactly. So that leads me to my next question. But so how can a good technology plan help these businesses survive today, and also really just take advantage of new ways to do things? I mean, cybersecurity is a big part of it, but so where does technology play in all this?
Yeah, so a good technology plan can help businesses survive today by keeping total costs down. So without a plan to govern your technology acquisitions, decisions can be made based on purchase price alone and not the ongoing cost to maintain and update the features over time as the business needs change. So a good plan should consider projected business needs to enable new technology changes to be anticipated and planned for to reduce the future costs of implementation.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense. So just to follow up with that, because again, I know there's just a lot of businesses out there. Well, first of all, they're kind of hurting a little bit because we're just kind of coming out of the pandemic. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these businesses, man, they have been thriving like crazy. But for the most part, the smaller businesses, well, they've managed to hang in there. Their budgets are really, really tight. And now they're scared to have somebody like yourself come in and help them with getting their technology set updated, whatever it may be, because they're afraid it's going to cost them money. Everybody, right? I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
Absolutely, you're correct.
So what do you say to these people who don't really want to spend anything, but they really have a huge need, and your technology really could, it's not about spending money, like you said, it could actually help them become more efficient, which they could actually be miles ahead and more competitive, just a few months down the road. So what should we say to these people?
So I would say focus on the value. Look at what you're getting and what it can save your business, or how it can help you increase your business, rather than just the cost of that device. I mean, it's spending, say, even $10,000 for a piece of equipment could be a lot to a small company.
Yeah.
But if that's going to allow them to have an increase of, say, 100,000 in revenue, wouldn't that be worth it?
Or maybe they lost some of their employees, because maybe some of the employees, there's still people out there that don't want to go back to work yet. That piece of equipment may be something that can help get through that, and maybe they won't need them anyhow if they
Sure,
get
yeah,
more efficient. Is that right?
Yeah, it can also lower operating costs. Technology can benefit in many ways, and I try not to focus on specific technologies, but
Right.
rather what the business need is, what would help the business the most, and then find a way to implement the technology that would help in that area the most.
Okay, good stuff. So, well, I'm just kind of curious. So you tell us a little bit about how you help your clients. What's the first thing you would do, let's say, for somebody that is just simply not sure if their business network is really doing everything it should for them? What would you do?
Yeah, the first thing I do is a baseline assessment of not just their network and equipment, but also their policies and procedures related to IT. I do a scan of the network, check and make sure that everything seems to be running okay, that there aren't any issues or unknown devices on the network. I find out a lot that there's things plugged into someone's network that they didn't know was there. That can
Imagine
be
that.
like a rogue wireless access point where someone's sharing their internet connection that they didn't know about, or a device that's just older, that's been sitting there and it's in an office out of the way, no one knows about. So that's the technology perspective, but then also the policies and procedures are just as important, because about 90% of breaches are caused by employees, and most of them aren't intentional. They are something the employee just didn't know how to do it correctly, or they weren't sure what they were supposed to do. They did something wrong, and that caused a problem. It either you lost information, or it allowed an attacker to get access to it. So the policies are just as important. So in case you hadn't caught it, I focus a lot of my attention on cybersecurity. Initially, I do a risk analysis based on the overall environment to help develop risk mitigation strategies. That's really the first thing I want to do, is just make sure that their current environment is as safe and secure as possible before we really look at any specific technologies that they may.
Exactly. And in today's world, again, I've done a lot of interviews with a lot of really, top cybersecurity specialists in the world. They've been on this show. I've learned a lot about it, but most business owners haven't been in my position where they can maybe learn. So we got to get it out to them. But I know a lot of business owners really just don't understand why remote workers can be an issue to their networks. So again, what do you say to those business owners out there who just don't seem, to think that there are any issues, sending their people, they're thinking they're doing a good thing. They're helping their workers out. Their workers seem to be more happy. And most of them anyhow. But what kind of real issues are there when you've got a remote workforce, especially now that they've been at it for, a couple months now?
Yeah, Brad. So there are a few vulnerabilities that can be introduced by implementing remote work practices. So think about it. If a remote worker can easily access the corporate data, what's to keep a bad actor from doing the same thing? This is especially true if the employees are using their own devices. They have their own computer at home. They're getting on it. You have no idea what type of security, or if any security, is even in place on that device. So there's such little control over how the employee is accessing the information that it really opens up a hole in the overall cybersecurity stance of the business.
Well, I was just talking to somebody not too long ago, and not that I'm into this, okay? So let's get this out in the open right now, okay? But I believe I think they said the number 4 most visited website in the world is a pornographic site.
I've heard the same thing.
Did you hear that too? I thought I heard that.
Well.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
But I think about it, I guess. But now somebody's kind of visiting that porn site, which is you hear all the jokes about, like somebody got a virus. Oh, you're on a porn site, right? But it's a joke, but it's really not a joke, is it? That's one of the ways.
No, it's not. And actually, just yesterday, I was remoting in to help an employee of a company. I won't say the name of the company for the sake of the innocent, protect the innocent.
Exactly.
And even the not so innocent. But I told him to go to a particular website to check on something, and he started typing in PO, and sure enough, the auto suggestion filled out the name of that website. So I knew what he was doing, and that's a good example of. Yeah. So he was accessing corporate information on a personal device that had been exposed to potentially malicious code. Malicious programs.
Probably was infected, and that gentleman that you're talking about should probably understand how to at least delete the cache so that doesn't show up. But anyways, yeah, exactly. So I just thought I heard that, and I thought, that just makes a lot of sense. But oh well. So those are the types of things as a business owner, right? You're in the peer group with the CEO of the Vistage group, so the people in your group. They need to be aware of this. Their employees, who knows what they're doing with that, whether it's a company issued, laptop or whatever it may be. But
yeah, and you know what? Just to be clear, it's not employees necessarily doing bad things either. It could be an employee that they've got a kid at home. They need to keep them occupied. They let them get on and browse the web and do some looking up, and they may go to a website unintentionally. It's not always the fault of the employee, but that's the kind of concern that there is, and why remote work can cause additional problems that have to be considered and addressed.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a pornographic site. That was just an example. It's just a shocker when I heard it, but it could be really anything, and it could be something that I've been hit. It seems like once or twice a day that I since I kind of know about this stuff, but there's been a charge to your account, so they want you to go to what looks like your credit card company page. Of course, you got to log in, but as soon as you do, they've got you.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be bad, but so we've covered quite a bit in a short amount of time, but what are we missing? I mean, what do you think is extremely important for business owners that we just haven't discussed yet?
Yeah, so I think it's extremely important for all businesses to have a good relationship and partnership with whoever they choose to work with on their information systems and cybersecurity practices. It's not an area that should be addressed only when there's a specific need or a problem happens. By the time a problem happens, it can already be too late and the damage is done. It's something that really has to be looked at ahead of time, and the proper practices put into place. You can't get rid of all risk, but you can come up with a plan to mitigate it as well as you can, and come up with alternative scenarios so that even if something does happen, you're not at risk of going out of business. And also, things change. COVID is really changed the environment out there. I think cybersecurity is more important to be addressed than ever. There's more risks than ever. Just the changing situation. Really, a good partnership. If you haven't talked to your IT provider or cybersecurity provider in more than 3 months, you probably should either get a hold of them or find someone who will work with you more closely to make sure that you're protected.
That's really good advice, and I'm sure that there's going to be a few people that they're going to have some questions when they get done listening or viewing this episode. So first of all, where all does Viterium service?
So I can cover pretty much anywhere in the world remotely, but I mostly focus on the local southwestern Pennsylvania region, the greater Pittsburgh area, roughly an hour and a half driving distance from Pittsburgh. So I go north to Meadville, east to Indiana, south to Wheeling, West Virginia, and then west into Youngstown.
Gotcha. So how do people get in touch with you? And then the last question I'm going to have is, what do you suggest would be the next steps if somebody did want to at least, I don't know, test out their infrastructure to see if it's doing everything it should be doing? What should they do, and how do they get a hold of you?
So my website is www.viterium.net. That's spelled Viterium. I can be reached by email at kyle.knapp@viterium.net. My last name is spelled Knapp. Can also be contacted by phone. It's 724-200-7082. It's a text-capable phone, so either give me a call or send me a text. And the first step really would be to have a brief conversation about your environment and schedule an on-site assessment, which I do for free.
That sounds great. So, well, once again, a big thanks to Kyle Knapp for taking time out of his busy schedule to really kind of help educate us a little bit more about what's going on in the world of technology. So, Kyle, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Brad. The pleasure was all mine.